Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from Unprocessed Gold, out August 12th on Spine Farm Records. The album has 16 tracks, 57 minutes in length, and this is the band's 4 full-length studio album. They are a German progressive metal band. This is the kind of record that has a great sense of movement, great sense of progression from the first to the last song. Even when you're taking a few steps back, it still feels like the album is moving you forward, and the record needed that in order to try to help the overall problem that it has, which is the length. Too many songs, too many minutes. It just hurts the overall playability. When you get to the end of the album, you want the experience to feel like it was exactly what you wanted, but it wasn't enough. So you're ready to go back for seconds, you're ready to listen to this album again. The way it sits when you get to the end of the record, not only the songs start to dilute themselves with the overall essence of the album, it becomes a lot harder for you to pinpoint quality tracks at the end of the album versus how it was easy to pinpoint them at the beginning of the record. And this is not to say that they're not there, it's just that the overall experience becomes a little bit too stretched out. And when you get to the end, you want to digest the album, you want to take your time before you come back to it again. So having an album with this design, with this length, with these many songs, it really hurts the quality of the individual tracks. You want to keep them as packed, as concise as possible so that the listener can enjoy the experience, can enjoy the journey, and not feel overwhelmed by it. The way it sits, it becomes a little bit overwhelming towards that last third. Now, as far as the sound is concerned, this is their best sounding album to date. It just has great quality, it exudes great quality, and the quality of the sound really represents the movement, the progression that this band has had from the first record all the way to now. You see them taking the right steps in the right direction, in refining their sound, refining the experience that comes from their sound, refining the atmosphere that the sound creates. And on this album, I hate to use this expression because it feels cliche, but this is a more mature sounding album. All the pieces are in the right place. When you look at the individual songs, the quality from track to track is undeniable. They have different starting points, they have different finish lines, but they never lost the red line that connects them all from beginning to end. And that helps that mobility that I was mentioning earlier. A great sounding album with great attributes, great layers, easy to digest, easy to understand on a song-by-song basis. It's not a record that takes you into the weeds with every single track. That would become even more cumbersome considering the overall length. So it doesn't do that. It allows everything to come to the listener very easily. The experience is easy to go through. The sound has great ability to expand, to move, to not necessarily have shapes and borders. When you listen to this album, I think what you're going to take out of the overall soundscape is that it travels, it moves really well, it fills in all the blanks, it has great warmth, great experience, great sonic movement. It's just a very well-rounded album from a soundscape point of view. It has strength, it allows the music to breathe, it allows their music to breathe, and also allows the listener to really pinpoint the quality of the individuals that make up this band. Comes across on every single track. Everybody's pushing and pulling towards the same direction with the same goals in mind, and when you do that, you create songs that have a life of their own, that have really the ability to move you emotionally, mentally, and in terms of how it puts it all together. Incredible sounding album from that perspective. There isn't a song on this record that doesn't meet that quality, that doesn't meet that standard that this band has for themselves and that they were able to put together for the entire duration of this record. Now, within that sound, two elements deserve a little bit of attention, and that is the bass and the guitars. I love both. I love the way they sound. I love the way they come forward. They worked really well with one another in order to create, and with the drums, in order to create this wall of sound that always has stability to it, that is never really breaking apart, that is not pulling the listener in different directions. Everything has its place, but its place is side by side and taking you down that path that is very easy to understand, that it's very easy to see. I love how the bass and guitars worked really well together from beginning all the way to the end, regardless of the mood, regardless of the atmosphere. The bass on this album sounds phenomenal. It really pops. It has strength, it has warmth, it has texture. I feel like there was room for more. There was room for the bass to breathe even a little bit more on certain tracks. I don't think it would have hurt the playability of the album, and I definitely don't think it would hurt the quality of the songs. It was always there at the cusp, but I feel like there were moments where it could have gone in a much more direct direction as far as the bass is concerned, and they held it back a little bit. The same could be said for the guitars. The guitars had a lot of strength, a lot of technicality. The prog elements coming out of the guitar sound really becomes the calling card of the entire album. It's magnificent. They're not overly complicated, or at least they don't sound overly complicated. They make themselves feel like a breeze. The way those notes come in, the way the movement that those notes create, everything just seems very easy, very light. It's a very light sounding record all around. There are some moments of heaviness here and there, but overall, the way this album breathes, how light it is, it's really something that becomes, tattooed in the mind of the listener early on in the experience of listening to this record. The only thing I wanted out of the bass and guitars together is to allow them to have more room to breathe individually. Not working together as one, not what they're creating for the songs, not how they're incorporating with the drums and even the vocals. I wanted to give them a little bit more room for them to explore themselves a little bit more within this record. And I think there were certain songs on this album that definitely had the ability to go in that direction. It's not a record that pushes too much of that envelope. It keeps everything more concentrated, it keeps everything more grounded, and I think they could have been slightly more experimental on that side. Now, as far as the vocals are concerned, I love the vocal performance on this album. When you look at the lyrical content, you look at the vocal performance, those two are coming together perfectly. Every single song, you're able to feel the emotion of the lyrics. You're able to go a little bit deeper into the journal, into the diary that this album becomes as far as the lyrical content is concerned. And I don't think you can do that without a vocalist that understands the lyrics, that understands the message, that understands the feeling, the emotion, and then how you bring that into the sound, into the experience, into the atmosphere that same sound is creating. So magnificent performance from that perspective, really enhancing the quality of every track and giving me a different feel, a different aroma, depending on where I am within this record and depending on where I am from song to song. Sometimes a little bit more haunting, sometimes a little bit more aggressive, using some harsh vocals here and there, allowing the vocals to breathe a little bit more, opening up your chest, bringing things a little bit down, adding darkness, adding light, just creating so much movement. Even in songs that musically don't feel like they have a lot of movement, the movement that you get from the emotion of the sound, of the tone of the vocals, is extremely well done from start to finish. All around, this is a great record. A little bit too long, and that hurts in terms of the overall experience that you walk out of this album feeling and the experience that you take with you. But this is a great record by them. Sound-wise, their best sounding record to date. It just needed to be a little bit more compact. It needed to be a little bit more concise. Sometimes more is not better, and this album perhaps is a little bit of proof of that. As far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with The Longing. Technical side of the song is extremely delicious. I just love how it comes across. I love how it moves. It offers a great sound experience, and then it creates an incredible atmosphere that is compensated by how the vocals come across. The vocals just enhance everything else that's already happening. It allows the song to get a little bit bigger, to have more of a defined path, perhaps more of a defined journey. The bass, guitars, drums together, these three elements working really well to create a single solid experience. You can still pinpoint all three of them in that solid experience, but it's really about this wall of sound that comes together, that comes concise towards you with every passing minute. The harsh vocals on this track add a little bit of aggression, it adds a sense of explosion. Everything that has been brewing throughout the entire song from an emotional perspective, from a lyrical content point of view, it comes out, it explodes out, and those harsh vocals were important in order to make that part of the song feel very defined, to create borders around it, to allow you to understand that everything was simmering up to that point, and then that point things just came out. You couldn't control it anymore. There's this sense of explosion, there's this sense of unburdening yourself. So great song vocally from that perspective, and musically as well, for taking you on that incredible journey, on that incredible path. Next you have Scorpio. This is a melancholic ballad. I mean, very stripped down song. A song that's more about the vocals, how they make you feel, how you interpret the lyrics, how they make you feel. It's all about emotion. This is a very emotional track. It's dripped in emotion. You get it from the vocal performance, and then the sound behind it just increases it or just defines it slightly better. It moves really well. It has a great chorus. The chorus on this track is beautiful. It's haunting, both musically and vocally. It becomes a little bit of that point that you can always wait for, because you know it's going to deliver. You know it's going to allow you to exteriorize a little bit of everything that was sitting in there, because everything was so contained, was so held back, was so introspective. This is a very introspective song that allows a few moments of clarity within it, and the chorus are those few moments of clarity. Then when the strings come in, the melancholy feels even heavier, even darker, even more on top of you. The weight of the world on your shoulders increases with every passing minute. You just feel like you're drowning in this song. You're drowning with every step that you take. You're drowning with every note that you're listening to. Last but not least, Berlin, a more electronic sounding song, and I absolutely loved it. I also love the vocals coming in German, a little bit different from what you've heard before on the album. The electronic sound works really well with the vocal performance, with the German vocals. Everything comes really well together. Has more, I wouldn't say industrial, but has an EDM sound to it, feel to it, that works well for the movement of the song, for the style of the song, for the lyrical approach, for the vocal approach. Everything comes well together. It still has this haunting darkness to it. Maybe in its underbelly, it's not as dark in the forefront because the electronic sound brightens up the song ever so slightly, but underneath it you still feel like there is some darkness to this track in terms of how it comes across and how you walk away from it thinking about it in the back of your mind. This is it. Unprocessed with Gold, out August 12th on Spine Farm Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use that comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.